Yeah, so number 6, I think this player profiles as kind of the opposite. I think you talk about Shaden Sharp being a little bit of a mysterious, maybe somewhat of a risk. I mean, the guy I'm about to take is someone who we've seen quite a lot of over the last couple of years in college basketball, and that's Keegan Murray to the Trailblazers at number 6. And you guys saw I mocked him out at number 3 in Monday's mock draft, and I had my entire lead to that mock draft written about Keegan Murray and why I believe he deserves to be in that conversation to be a top 3 pick. And I think if you take the name off the front of that jersey and replace it with Kentucky or Duke or North Carolina or Kansas, and you replace on his 24/7 sports prospect page the 3-star ranking with a 5-star ranking, I think Keegan Murray might even be in the conversation to go number 1 overall. This guy is an absolute offensive firecracker. But beyond that, he can guard 1 through 5. I mean, we talk about Paulo and like, oh, maybe one day he can do that. And like, you know, he can kind of do it now. And like Jabari Smith, same thing. And, you know, Chet, it's like all these guys can develop into these hyper versatile defenders who can switch on to anyone and protect the rim and all these things. And it's like, well, Keegan Murray can do all that now. I mean, at 6'8", he played as an undersized center in Iowa's system a ton of minutes. And he blocked 1.9 shots per game this past year for the Hawkeyes. And so his 3-point shot is already there. The defensive versatility is already there. Some of the playmaking stuff is already there. And so you're kind of like, all right, what are we missing here? And so I think the floor for Keegan Murray is as an elite role player, because he's not a guy who needs the ball in his hands at all times. He's not somebody who's going to have just a ridiculous usage rate. And so I think he could be the first player in this draft class to reach an NBA All-Star game. He'll be 22 when the season starts. Maybe that's a red flag for some people. But as somebody who is used to cover the Grizzlies and still follows them pretty closely, let me just tell you for a second, there should be no shame or no fear in drafting a guy who is the older prospect, or like, maybe his arms are too short. Like, I get all that, but at the same time, look, the Grizzlies got Desmond Bane in the 20s a couple of years ago. He's turned out to be an elite shooting guard. He's going to be an all-star. And then, you look at the same thing with Brandon Clark, and a lot of teams passed on him a few years back for no good reason other than that, his arms were too short. Like,
T-Rex
give me
arms,
a break. Yeah, the dude can play ball, right? Like, people might have said that your jaw was too strong, Kyle, but your wife still married you anyway, and obviously you guys are doing great. So anyway, that's my spiel on Keegan Murray. I don't think he's too old, and I think that if he'd played for another school or maybe been more known as a high school prospect, that he'd be in this conversation right now to go in the top 3. So that's a long-winded spiel. I wrote about him. Obviously, I like talking about the guy. So that's my pick with number 6 overall, and now it's back to you at number 7.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I just don't love it. At number 6, like, again, going back to like draft philosophy, if you're the Portland Trailblazers, like you're kind of resetting as a franchise. Do you want someone who's going to be like a real good NBA player, or do you want someone who's like maybe an all-star, like maybe elite? Like, I think Keegan Murray will be a really good NBA player. I don't see all-star with him, and he's a little bit older. Will be 22 when the season rolls around. He's a little bit smaller in terms of like positionally. I think he is. He's a pretty good defender. Like, he's a great offensive player. I think the two-way versatility is very real. But I'm more comfortable in this draft maybe taking him in like the 10 to 20 range as opposed to like the 5 to 10 range.